This is going to be a conversation that you probably have never heard on a faith based Christian platform. But it is truly my assignment to speak on those things that are lovely, but also to speak on those things that don't feel kind. Today, we're going to address on this episode of Monica Mentors the unspoken truth about teen drinking. So join us today as we talk about the term that I like to say liquid courage. We're going to uncover the hidden realities of teen drinking today. This show is going to offer parents and family members, as well as faith based leaders and counselors, some insight and some expert wisdom on how to navigate this sensitive conversation. Did you know that American teens have a lot on their minds? There was a report that says anxiety and depression, bullying, abuse, and drug use is a major problem for people between the ages of 13 to 17 years old. According to this Pew report that I found, it said that the University of Michigan is constantly monitoring a survey that shows that as of 2023, 46% of 12th graders said they had consumed alcohol in the last 12 months prior to even speaking for the survey. It went on to say that 31% of 10th graders and 15% of 8th graders admitted to already drinking alcohol. The study did go on to say that the percentages thankfully have decreased since 2001. But those numbers showed that 73% of 12th graders, 64% of 10th graders, and 42% of 8th graders reported being binge drinkers. All three grade levels said that they had consumed alcohol within 30 days prior to this survey being done. They went on to admit that they had at least 5 or more drinks in a row less than 2 weeks before this survey was completed. A lot of times I know that I've heard stories in my own family, friends that I know. I don't know if it was necessarily from anything other than just maybe, I don't know, an old wise tale or everybody can handle it, or it was just something that was always done in the family. I have so many friends who family members with the taste of beer on their tongue when they were kids. I have friends and individuals that I know who probably had their first experience at least with the scent, at least for the sip of beer, probably starting around, I don't want to exaggerate the ages, so I'm going to say maybe around 7 years old. Some of you may know someone who was a lot younger, but that's just been my experience. And so I'm wondering, how did that taste feel for someone at 7 years old? And how were they able to separate that was something that they necessarily may have been too young to consume at that time? I don't know, a lot of family members laughed it off, oh, it's nothing, they wanted to taste it, they wanted to see what it tastes like. But how many young people in those survey numbers that I gave you had that experience? Parents, nowadays, you got to talk about it. I am always clear on this show where I say, I know that everybody's not drinking. I know that every teen has not experimented with drugs, but there are a lot that have. And I believe there are a lot of adults who teeter tottered with it at that age. And they now find themselves living in a space where they can't live without alcohol. It's doing a lot of damage, not only to the family. A lot of people feel like, especially when I was in college, they felt like the only way that you could have fun is if you were drinking. In some spaces, it's considered an epidemic. And so we have to talk about this. Did you guys know that there are some teens in the UK and they do something called a dry January challenge. And what they do is once a month at the beginning of the year, they have decided not to drink any alcohol whatsoever because it was so out of hand with a lot of the young people in that area. And so this was embraced back in 2012 because the UK was seeing that there was a health issue that was causing a lot of alcohol change in the community. And now, from what I saw in the survey, millions now take part in this challenge every single year, according to harvardmedical.ed. Did you know that in 2023, y'all, this is going to have a lot of statistics because it blew my mind, and I hope that it'll blow yours too. 5.6 million young people between the ages of 12 to 20, they reported that they drink alcohol beyond just a few sips. Adolescent alcohol use differed by race and ethnicity. For example, at the ripe old age of 14, white, black, and Hispanic youth are equally likely to drink, according to this report. By the age of 18, white and Hispanic youth are twice as likely to drink more than any other youth group. And in 2023, approximately 663,000 youth between the ages of 20, starting at age 12 to 20, reported that they drink at least 5 or more drinks every single day. Y'all, this is a wake-up call. Now, the Bible gives us a perspective about drinking, my opinion. In Proverbs 20:1, it says, wine is a mocker and beer causes brawls. So whoever is led astray by them, it's not wise. In other words, guess what? You get the right stuff in, you be ready to fight. The laughter that you heard me say, because when I was at the prime of drinking, I always used to want to start a fight. My friends used to say, see there, that's why church girls and nice girls don't need liquor. You know. So Ephesians 5:18 says, please don't be drunk with wine. It'll ruin your life. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. And that's the New Living Translation. Another scripture said, please be on guard. If you don't let the sharp edge of your expectations get dulled by partying and drinking. Otherwise, the day will come and it'll take you completely by surprise. And you may find yourself stuck in a trap that you weren't prepared for. That was Luke 21:34 from the Message Bible, my favorite version. Now, those of you all who drunk at an early age, did you find yourself, you were caught possibly in a situation because all you did was drunk and went to sleep. And when you woke up, the day did not look like the day that it did before you closed your eyes for the evening. Woke up the next morning. I know that there are often so many people that say, look, I can handle it. I tend to realize now, even though I didn't then, I believe that it says 21 and over for a reason. Perhaps even the individuals in the industry know that there is a chance that you may not realize what you're consuming. And if you consume too much, it could be harmful for you. No different when the label it tells you if you're pregnant, it tells you on depending on what type of drinking or alcohol that it'll tell you, it gives you warnings. And so there's a place and a time to have a conversation. The survey was extremely detailed about kids reporting that most of the time, a lot of their drinking, a lot of the alcohol they find, it comes from their own home. It comes from their friends' homes. Their peers are sneaking it in book bags. Now, parents, this is not the time for you to become Inspector Gadget, but I'm just giving you some things that you may want to watch out for. The best way, though, is to talk to them about it before they find themselves in a situation not knowing that it's okay to say no. Even though you have a good kid, you have a Christian kid, kids, that saying used to drive me crazy. Kids will be kids. But you never know what type of conversation your child is going to find themselves in. So empower them before they find themselves in the situation so they won't be in this statistic. So, what are some of the things that you can do if you find out that your child may be drinking? Well, the very first thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is you need to create a safe space. This is not the time to go global anger. This is not the time to pull out the belt and the whooping and the punishments. That's not going to create a safe space for them. Because a lot of times when kids get caught drinking, if they don't drink the right stuff, the hangover will get them every time. You don't also be careful that you don't push them further into it because you've made them feel like you already in trouble. And so like what I used to say when I was growing up, I'm already in trouble anyway, so I might as well just keep doing it. You don't want them to take that attitude. But if you don't create a safe space for them, there's a chance that it could happen. I also want you to learn how to ask them open-ended questions. What that simple version, what that means, ask them a question and then leave it open so that they have an opportunity to answer it. Don't just go in saying and da 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 da, and I told you and this and that. Don't do that. Try to find out, because what you want to find out is what pushed them to the point to decide to put the bottle or the glass or the drink of alcohol to their lips in the first place. That's the goal of asking the open-ended questions. A lot of y'all, this going to be hard, especially for those in the church. I'm raising my hand because I am a part of the church. But you got to seek to understand and not judge. We used to hide things. Might not have always hid them well, but we did. And a lot of times we hid those things in my generation because, one, I think a lot of times we didn't feel like we could talk to someone. We didn't know who to talk to. And then a lot of times the community made us feel like, especially if you were quote unquote with strict parents, it was a little tougher to figure out how you could open up, to find someone who would understand and not judge you. Gotta lead by example. They're not ready to drink. Don't encourage it. They're a baby, they're little. Don't put it to their mouths. You're taking away their choice to make a decision because you don't know if that's something they would desire in the first place. I think about this story. My grandmother tricked me when I was younger. One of my favorite things was strawberry sodas. And so I don't even remember what I was doing, y'all. And I was like, I want the strawberry soda so bad. But she had already told me, stop drinking so many sodas, baby. And so what she did was, it was something I was getting ready to do. And she was like, you know what? If you drink strawberry soda, that's going to make it worse. I stopped instantly because I didn't want anything to be in a space to keep me from having my strawberry sodas. But then I didn't want to make that other situation worse because I was indulging in something that may make me feel worse. And so lead by example. If your dad or your uncle or even your mom or your aunt, if they put the bottle to your tongue at a young age, you don't have to do it to your kids just because you came out okay. You might have been okay, but you don't know what that's going to put on your child. If you're in a space where you are a heavy drinker, maybe consider not doing it in front of your kids. I mean, I don't feel like that's rocket science, but I don't ever want to assume anything. If you are a wine drinker, I know a lot of people in the church drink wine. A lot of churches do communion as their red wine. Still have a conversation with your kids though. Let them know why it's done. Let them know, why you practice it. I know there's a lot of people in the Jewish tradition. It's not uncommon for wine to be consumed in a lot of international platforms. But talk to your kids about it. And then if you feel like outside support is needed, offer it. Encourage them to go to counseling. Encourage them to find a mentor or to speak to someone that can help them understand why they have a desire to overly consume alcohol, why they have a desire to drink in the first place. Let's talk about it. And then you need to monitor and supervise with loving care. Y'all, we lose so many battles in this generation when we try to beat them over the head. Our time, our parents could look at us, a lot of us, and we would stop doing things. That is not this generation. And so you got to do a little research. Talk to some people. Go online. We have a running joke in our household. If we ask a question, the first thing my husband and I say to each other, you got a smartphone or you got Google. Go find some ways that you can, monitor and support your kids in care and not be doggone annoying. Don't be annoying. And don't forget that you were young. Listen, the part that gets on my nerves so bad is some of y'all make your kids feel like you didn't do anything. They gonna still love you, but they know just as good when you lying. They can see right through it. They've been in the house with you. So hiding it does not work. There's this new movie I was watching yesterday on Netflix, and that's the parents used to be like with the CIA or something, and they used to make up all kind of stories, and their kids used to be like, now I can see you, right? And so they were making up these stories thinking they were protecting their kids, but their kids did exactly what I said. They went on Google, looked up their own parents to find out they were not telling the truth. In order to build a safe space, in order to seek to understand and not judge, in order to lead by example and offer outside support, you gotta be honest. You got to understand what the underlying issue is. A lot of times when people overly consume alcohol, there is typically something that's involved. There are people who have been misused in their body. There are people who have issues with, self-esteem. I have heard of stories with people who deal with sexual orientation differences. They're conflicted because they feel this way, but they come from a certain family, so they feel like they don't want to embarrass their family. I have heard affluent households where the kids feel like they're not able to meet the standard or exceed the standard of what their family has established. They feel pressure from that. I have heard stories of people who were straight A students and they made a choice to either have sex before marriage, or they made a choice and it started affecting their grades and they didn't know how to share that with their parents. So they start consuming alcohol as a way to cope. I even know of people who had a sudden death in their family, unexpected, they didn't have to deal with. And so that was coping for them. So you got to understand the underlying issue. You got to stay involved in the process. Don't build a safe space and then walk away. Don't supervise for 30 days and never come back and ask them how they're doing. Don't send them to counseling and then when they get to the end of the counseling session, you don't ask them, are they okay? Do they need anything? People don't mind you doing that. There are a lot of people that wish someone can ask them, are you okay? I'll tell you a funny story. My friends and I, we started that, I want to say around the pandemic. I didn't realize how important that was until we saw how many friends and family members we were losing. And one of the things that we do now, at least twice a week, we say, how are you? How are you doing? We don't ask each other, how was your hair appointment? How the kids doing? What you cooking for dinner tonight? We start out, when we answer the phone, we said, how are you today? That will help you, mom and dad, hear some of the underlying issues that you may not pay too much of attention to because of the busyness of the day. Our kids are involved in so many things now. We have sports activities, whether that be football, basketball, cheerleading, volleyball. Like we're nonstop church activities. We are nonstop on the go. But there's one thing that it is my prayer and my hope that we can get back to as a community is to slow down, find family time again, spend time together. We are so into getting as far away from each other as possible that we're missing some of those underlying issues. Did you guys know that in college, that's where there's a lot of drinking that causes men and women to find themselves in sexual things that they did not consent to? And a lot of times they're embarrassed to say so. As the survey said, these kids are starting as early as 12 years old. The line issue, like I'm wrecking my brain now, y'all, as I'm listening to myself talking to you on this episode. What does a 12-year-old have as an underlying issue that they need alcohol to cope? Could it be self-esteem issues? Could it be bullying? That's around the time they start the preteen activities. Bodies start to change. I know there are hormonal, menstrual issues that start. Young men are coming into their full selves. But no, seriously, what does a 12-year-old? Why is a 12-year-old in a place where they can't figure out what's going on, so they go to a bottle? What are you possibly showing them in the home? Do you even monitor what the kids watch on television anymore? Do you let the games babysit them? You don't knock on the door just to see if they can come to the table. Practical things that we're missing out on, y'all. Practical things that are taking our children into a place I don't necessarily for them to go, but I don't think you intended for it either as a parent. I am the product of a family of heavy drinkers. And I have this one cousin that blows my mind to this day. We were at a reunion and my sister and I asked him, like, what? Because we were watching everybody else, turn up. And we asked him, what, you don't drink? And his words to us, I will never forget, and I will share the story as much as I possibly can. He said to us, I saw what it did to our uncles, and I didn't want to do that to myself. Flip side of that, we have other cousins that were drinking like crazy, and guess what they said? I saw my uncles do it, so I don't understand what the big deal is. Which side of the coin do you want your kids on? Which side of the coin were you put on? There is a moment where you're going to have to look all the way back, possibly in your bloodline, and see if there are some things that have moved from generation to generation that could be affecting your now. Everything that the kids are dealing with is not of their own doing. So if you want to support a child who may be drinking, you need to give them a combination of open communication. You need to give them understanding. And please set clear expectations. Give them some help if they need it. Stop going around saying it's not my child. Stop going around. My mother will say, probably until she goes to glory. My mother's always been one, I will never say what my children are not doing or don't do. Don't let the enemy trick you by thinking that it can't happen to you. There's a whole lot of can't happens that go visit their kids in rehab. You may have been in rehab yourself. You may have, like me, watched family members who drunk themselves to death. You may have family members that are having mental health issues and are soothing it with a bottle. Let's start getting these children before they become adults with these same issues. So as we wrap up this episode of what I love to call liquid courage, the unspoken truth about teen drinking, I want to emphasize the importance of parental support in navigating this complexity of drinking. Whether your child chooses, because it's a choice, to abstain from alcohol, or if they need guidance, if they do decide to drink, they need your willingness to stand by them side by side to make that difference. Empower them to understand. Never assume that your child is going to know if it's okay or not okay to drink. It is so important. I cannot stress that enough. Open understanding, unwavering support is what will empower our teens to make better, informed decisions and lead them to a healthier, safer life. I remember I heard someone say, never thought about this. Did y'all know, Black women, that drinking aggravates fibroids for us? That's one of the reasons it does cause certain alcohols create tumors, create cysts. We have to have certain unnecessary surgeries that we wouldn't necessarily have to have because it's something about the chemicals, the ingredients that they put in them. So for a lot of us, unfortunately, those of us who might enjoy drinking, it causes side effects that there is no cure for. So I want you to offer a listening ear, set clear expectations, and please provide the necessary resources, including health resources, to help your child feel that they can make a valuable and respectful decision about drinking. Remember, you are their most influential role model, not Monica mentors. I'm an asset. I'm an asset to you. Your support is critical, fostering their confidence and their well-being. Thank you so much for joining me on this special episode and talking to your kids about the benefits of not drinking, possibly the not so great consequences of drinking, and how you as their parent can provide the parental support to give them the tools and the resources to choose on this day who and what they want to serve. So next time, I thank you for giving me an ear on this very important conversation. We are raising up a generation, not going to drop them, Help them do what they need to do. Be the best person that they need. Guys, until next time, we'll talk soon.